Hey, today I'm going to be talking about Module 6 and the different types of brain research that are available today. Most of these are radiology type tests. There's the MRI, fMRI, CT scan, EEG, and PET scan. There's also a brain research that can be done called lesioning, but that's not commonly used, but we'll touch on it briefly. So by using technology today, we can better understand how each part of the brain functions. CT scans, which are also called computed tomography scans, these are x-ray pictures. They use a computer and view what are called slices of the brain. By looking at these slices, they can see abnormalities in the brain, as well as damage from injuries, tumors, bleeding, and strokes, things like that. CT scans will also show if there's any skull fractures, so that's very useful, skull fractures and swelling, so that's useful if there's any trauma type injuries or things like that. CT slices go from the top of the skull to the bottom, and they're in horizontal things, so it's kind of like they're stacked, the picture of the brain is stacked on top of each other. And also, CT scans are really useful in anyone who has any type of metal in their body. Surgical clips, metal implants, things like that. There are no magnets used in a CT scan, so that's very safe for a person, with metal in their body. The next type of thing will be an MRI scan. This is called a magnetic resonance imaging scan. These do use magnetic fields to create a picture of the brain. They provide a really a more detailed look into the brain. There's a specialized MRI scan. It's called a DTI. This is helpful in understanding disorders like schizophrenia and dementia. DTI stands for diffusion tension imaging, and it looks at two types of tissues in the brain, the gray matter and the white matter. The myelinated white matter shows how different parts of the brain interact and connect and work together. To look at just the structure of the brain, you would need to do what's called an fMRI, which is a functional magnetic resonance imaging scan. This scan would show changes in the blood oxygen level. So whatever part of the brain is more active, that's where the higher level of oxygen concentration would be. The fMRI scan is used a lot to detect genetic risk for Alzheimer's disease. People who are at risk for Alzheimer's disease show a greater activity in areas of the brain that deal with retrieval, meaning and use of words and language. They have a difficulty, with that area, so the oxygen level is higher in that area. Now, if they want to study just the electrical activity of the brain, they can do an EEG or electroencephalogram. They stick small little electrodes to the scalp, and it's going to measure these brain waves that are there. They also use a computer to look at the waves and the different things. There are 3 of the different type of waves that can be seen. They're a lot of time used in seizure disorders or sleep disorders. An EEG can also tell what part of your brain is active when you're using your memory or your attention span. So it's very good to test people, with tasks that deal with these things. The different waves that are seen are beta, alpha, and theta waves. When a person is really active, like walking or, physically active, there's a fast, irregular wave that is seen, and that's the beta wave. When somebody is relaxed, there's a slower wave, that's the alpha wave. When someone is really relaxed, like sleeping, there is a larger wave that's seen, that's called the delta wave. That means you're really calm asleep. There's also a scan called a PET scan, or positron emission tomography scan. It uses radioactive glucose or sugar. It's a safe radioactive material that's injected in the person, and the computer uses different colors to indicate which area of the brain is using more of that sugar. The lighter the color is on that scan, that's where the most activity is. So by telling what part of your brain is using more energy, they can tell that that's the most active part. That's important in knowing what part of the brain is, handling certain tasks and functions. Another test that's similar to the PET scan is the SPECT, or Single Positron Emission Computed Tomography scan, and that is like the PET scan, but it measures more of the blood flow and a more detailed tracking of the radioactive material that's used. PET scan is used for people with Alzheimer's disease and people who suffer epileptic seizures. That's where that would be used. The last thing would be the lesioning, brain lesioning, which is, like I said, not used too much. That causes permanent damage to the brain, and it's usually not used in humans unless the patient already has brain damage, and so they're not, they wouldn't cause any further damage. They're just seeing what controls what actions or abilities in the body. By using an electrical current, they actually kill off neurons in a specific part of the brain. If they do this in animals, it has to be done in a humane way. They have to give them anesthesia and pain medication in order to actually do this. I guess as far as research goes, this would allow, like I said, certain areas of the brain to be damaged, and just to see what bodily functions are controlled or would be damaged if that part of the brain were damaged. So there are the methods of brain research. Again, there's the CT, which is computed tomography scan, MRI, magnetic resonance imaging scan, fMRI, which is the functional magnetic resonance imaging scan, EEG, which is the electrical encephalogram, PET scan, which is the positron emission tomography scan, and then the brain lesioning, which actually deals with killing off certain areas or parts of the brain. So that's Module 6, Methods of Brain Research.